Welcome to Real Chat with Kat, the podcast that's all about real conversations for real transformation. I'm your host, Kat Pulcinelli, professional speaker, MC, and best-selling international author. Here, we tackle the tough stuff, the mud that we all have found ourselves in. We talk about the pivots, the challenges, and the victories that shape our lives and our businesses. From overcoming trauma and finding your voice to navigating life's unexpected twists, we get raw, honest, and open. You'll hear from inspiring guests who share their stories of resilience, healing, and growth. Whether it's breaking through emotional abuse, embracing self-worth, or thriving in entrepreneurship, you'll find connection, empowerment, and the tools to keep you moving forward. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and get ready for stories that hit home and conversations that make a difference. Let's get real together. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of Real Chat with Kat. I am so excited to have you here with me, and Happy New Year. I know that you guys are going to be hearing this, I guess, probably more toward the end of January, beginning of February, but that's okay. Happy New Year, because, well, we won't go into that. The Chinese hasn't celebrated their New Year either, so a Happy New Year to everyone. Welcome to 2026. I hope that you guys have decided to leave so much behind in the past year and are ready to embrace all of the new that is coming to you this year. And what an amazing conversation to have with my beautiful guests. So, Karen, thank you so much for joining us for the podcast today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, and thank you to everyone who listened in on this. And just to echo and anchor what you said, happy 2026 to everybody, and hopefully we're all blessed with the wonderment of what this unknown year will bring, and may it just illuminate what is the best within all of us. Amen on that one.
Yes. Oh, so excited for it. 2026 is going to be awesome. All right. So we have got, you guys, first off, Karen is amazing. I have so many directions I want to go. So we may have to have her back for a part two. We'll make sure that you guys have all of her information because you're going to want to dive into all the things. But Karen, instead of me telling everybody all the things, please do us a favor and tell everyone who you are and what it is that you do.
Wonderful. Yeah, I love that. Okay, I get comfortable, and it's an invitation to get comfortable with putting the spotlight onto ourselves because sometimes it's lovely when somebody else does that for us. So, in a beautiful non-egoic but heart-led way, my name is Karen. I'm known as the Solution. It's a play on words, soul, Soul, solution therapist. It's a company I run with my beautiful husband who's Scottish. He's a quantum healer. I'm Irish, and my background is I'm 20 years as a licensed psychotherapist. I would have done deep training in the unconscious energy through Jungian and Freud, and then integrated all the way up into integrative psychotherapy. I then continued in my training, and I trained as a tantra teacher. I trained under Dr. Gaber Mate in the body self-inquiry work. I did my master's in spirituality, and then I've just exited after a whole year of training in the beautiful woods here in Ireland as a shamanic medicine woman. And I don't mean plant medicine, it's a ceremonial way of us women falling and dropping into the depths of our soul terrain to know the medicine we carry within our own beautiful soul expression that we gift back out into the world. So that really is who I am in terms of the credentials. I'm a mother of two, a beautiful son all the way out in Australia who's 28, and a daughter who's 20, studying zoology in university. So I'm navigating life where what I was, which was this mother who loved to nurture her babies, is now being a mother from the sideline who celebrates their independence and their wins and their trials and tribulations. And I guess I'm just loving that me and my husband have found a way to bring our gifts together and offer incredible containers to incredible souls around the world. We work with people all around the world, whether it's like this online, or we do immersion work where they come to us for 3 days, either in Ireland or in Scotland, or they fly us to where they are, and we offer them container work, which is like 3 month or 6 months or 9 month containers to work with us. So it's wonderful. I'm in a wonderful place in my life. Yeah, work is wonderful, life is wonderful, marriage is wonderful, kids are wonderful. So it's a good place to be in with yourself, definitely. Yeah.
Mm, I love that so much. And it's so beautiful to hear so much positive energy, especially when there is so much negativity that's going on in the world. So I want to offer a moment for everyone that is listening to also reflect, especially as you're in the new year as well. What are the good things that are going in your life already, right? How are you already starting this new year? And what are the things that you have accomplished or you're proud of or you're just happy to have, whether that be your children growing up, like mine are 21 and 18. So we're finishing out our last year of high school. Yeah. So it's kind of getting to that phase as well of, kind of being on the sideline and which is a really unique place to be and really cool to be able to see them grow as well. So just want to offer that to the audience at some point in time today. I strongly suggest taking a reflection to reflect on the positivities within your life, whatever that may be, and as small as it may be, just because it's wonderful to reflect on that, especially with all the other weight of things that we are carrying throughout the universe. Okay, so I have so many questions, and I want to make sure that I kind of start where the audience knows how to follow as well, because usually when you hear therapist, everybody's like, you knew. Hold on, time out. Now, you have beautiful energy work behind you and several other containers that I'd love to talk about as well. But I want to kind of back up and start with first psychotherapy. And I'd like for you, if you don't mind, give us an idea or realm of what is psychotherapy for those, because I think that a lot of us, especially in, my hemisphere over here, we hear therapist and we're like, oh gosh, someone that's going to diagnose us with something, someone that's just going to tell us what's wrong with us. Like, great. Now, I've obviously had multiple different types of therapists on on this podcast, so hopefully my audience is understanding that that's not a bad word. And I'd love for you to be able to kind of give background on what is psychotherapy, how does that play a role into what you do? Because no one's gonna, or not that no one is, we're going to dive into tantra and all the other pieces as well, which, in my personal opinion, is generally outside of what is therapy. However, I'm seeing a lot of integrations and blends within those worlds.
Mm, yeah, beautiful. Psychotherapy, I met psychotherapy and the work of psychotherapy when I was the client in the chair at age 21. And I
Mm,
remember walking through the door, and my doctor drove me there. I had disclosed that I was quite like depressed, and I had met suicide energy when I was 14, and I disclosed that I was having suicidal thoughts again, even though I knew in myself I was not going to act upon it. But it was hijacking me, and it was really, really awakening a storm of depression in my own body. So I remember my doctor taking me there, and I remember having great shame. I remember walking into the building being very nervous, being very embarrassed about, do people know why I'm here? There was people in the
mm-hmm.
waiting area, and this building was for all sorts. There was a dentist, there was a massage therapist, and there was counselors, psychotherapists. And I never knew what psychotherapy meant. And I remember even feeling uncomfortable with the wording psychotherapy because I like to play on words. And if you break down the word, which is weird, it's like you can break it up into three words, which is psycho, the rapist. Okay. And I remember looking at it very negatively and going, oh my God, is this person going to hijack my mind? Is this person going to know my mind better than me? Is it going to be so uncomfortable for me? So I remember then coming into the room and just being so uncomfortable where I couldn't even look them in the eyes, and I kept looking to the ground and just shame, self-shame hijacking me. Well, what I discovered through it was I never encountered a space like it. I never met or encountered a person to really meet me and really have this understanding of my inner terrain and where I was while I was navigating through my own processing. I never met and I never had that experience of somebody gently holding me by the hand and letting me know that they're always there, that they're not judging me, they're not shaming me, that they're walking the path with me and they're really with me side by side. So jump ahead then, that's kind of why and what really led me into wanting to train as a therapist, because I had benefit from sitting in the chair, that I wanted to understand how they knew what to do, what they did. So training as a psychotherapist, there is psychology, as you would know, and then there's counseling that you would know, and psychiatry. So I'm not here to diagnose. I don't apply the labels. I'm not working with the DSM-5. I don't do diagnostic theory. So I'm not coming at it from that scientific lens. I am trained to really understand what formulates your ego, what creates in you the personality that you have, but what woundedness around that has created you to create your armor in. So if you think of a medieval knight, something, all of us will have had something that has happened onto us. It doesn't matter what that is. And it can be even when you're as little as being with your best friend and they say, I don't want to play with you anymore, or they say, I'm not your friend anymore. That's a wound. And no matter what the wound is, out of the wound, like we call that shamanically, I would call that the snake bite. A snake bite will happen that creates a wound. And out of that wound, we begin to tell ourselves a story about ourselves. So there's this self-awareness that kicks in. And that self-awareness will make us look at ourselves with a lot more critique and criticism. So from that place then grows the self-procrastination, the self-judgment, the
Mm,
self-blame, self-shaming, and there's all that wounded energy. And as a result of that wounded energy, what we do is, because the bravest thing, Kate, really for anyone, Kat, is for somebody to be so honest and real and tell the truth about themselves. We don't feel our environment is safe enough to tell the truth about ourselves. And when you've had a wound, you're in defense mechanism. So your nervous system has been kicked in. So in psychotherapy, we know all of this. We know that there's this beautiful, authentic self that has encountered, we'll call it an infliction onto them, a woundedness, and they will put on an armor like a medieval knight to protect themselves from whether that's more rejection, more denial. So they really are trying to protect themselves from being hurt. And because of that, then we cannot be congruent to the truth of who we are, because it doesn't feel safe to be who we are. Because maybe we heard, what are you crying for? What's up with you?
mm,
Stop being so upset. So there's a denial of that true, authentic self. So what happens then is, in order for connection, we will become a version of a self that is more pleasing to the dynamic and the personality of the other person. We will create inside of us a way of being so we fit in. So we become more of a version of a self. We're such clever energies. We're always witnessing and watching, like octopus with our tentacles going out into the room, and we're always feeding back to ourselves what's going on, what's this person like. And I mean this with love. We will then, in order to feel wanted and safe and connected, we will perform at we call that the unconscious level. So what happens is, when a person comes to therapy and sits with a psychotherapist, it's almost like the character of who they've become for all those years is exhausted with playing that character, because it's not the authentic true self. My job is, with great compassion and love, is to, because it's a gift for me when you take me into your inner terrain, into the privacy of who you are. It's a gift, it's an honor, it's a privilege for me to journey with you in there. So my job is to journey with you in there with great curiosity, and to ask you type of questions that you've never been able, or you never had psyche space to ask yourself, because you've been so in the program, in the wound, trying to navigate the world, trying to cope with your defense and survival energy, and that can cause us to project and get triggered. So my role is to kind of gently guide to remove all of this, to allow you to come into the safety of yourself. With psychotherapy and with the way I work, I'm such an intuitive. And I saw that even when I was training as a psychotherapist, I was like, there's a lot more in the way I approach things, but the frame of psychotherapy didn't complement with the wisdom that I knew. So I was like,
mm,
how do I get to know what I know? How am I? And an example of it was, I remember standing with one of my clients, And I noticed, I was like to him, oh, there's such a heavy feeling around your neck, like a darkness. And he was like, you know, and true, she said, like 2 days ago, I was robbed and the guy got me in a neck, got me by the neck. And
Mm.
in my visceral energy, I was able to feel what was still present in his visceral energy. And and I was like, okay, so there's more to what I know than just what I was trained in the psychotherapy. And that's why I went off, and there's a personal reason, but professionally, I went off to train in all these other modalities because I was seeking to know this part of me, which is my medicine. That's what I'll call it now. The part of me that is my medicine that allows me the gift to feel into your conscious field and to pick up what you're feeling in you viscerally and emotionally. And I use myself like a little conduit, like a conductor. And I will say, oh, just as you're saying that to me, notice your left shoulder because I can feel it in mine. And a person will be like, they're able to go, yeah, actually, wow, I feel a tightness or a heaviness or a pinch. And I'm like, okay, can we just bring awareness there? And then I go in and do the body inquiry work, which is like being an intuitive surgeon. We go in and we feel what's present in the body together. And through my body inquiry work, I know that things are Velcroed. There'll be a story, an image, a self story in there. So we'll go in and we'll explore that. But primarily, under all of this, my main focus of my work is welcoming people to come home to who they are through that lens of seeing themselves with love, because I know the pain and suffering of not looking at Karen through the lens of self-love but to self-hate, and I know what that does. It led me to attempt suicide when I was just 14. It led me to self-sabotage and make choices that were so destructive, which was drug misuse when I'm 15, homelessness on the streets when I was 15 as well, and being promiscuous, like you, self-abusing myself. So to work with, and that's what I had to do in all that years of therapy with myself. I had to find why I hated myself so much. Why was I so brutal in my violence towards Karen, which came from childhood trauma and abuse, real abuse that happened to me. I began to see myself in the very same way as my abuser did. So
Mm.
it took years of disarmoring, releasing, unveiling, the reclamation. It took years to drop the story I had told myself about myself, because the story we tell ourselves informs our personality. And for anyone who's into the Dr. Joe and neuroscience, your personality creates your personal reality. So in my lens of self-hate, I was looking for the evidence in my reality that I'm not enough. And I would look for it so subtly, but so strong. And I always met it. Absolutely. Because the very thing you're looking for, you're going to just see that. It's your lens. It's your, like a game. And you know, the game that you put over your eyes and you're inside of the game. And so, of course, if I'm in a program in myself, which is I'm unlovable, nobody cares about me, nobody wants me, then of course I'm going to look for the evidence. So I'm going to repel and reject when life is mirroring to me abundance and joy and wonderment. I'm only going to care about the truth in me, which is life doesn't love me. So I will be more focused on when a friend doesn't text me back, or when somebody is not calling to me. You know, there were the things that I was more hyper vigilant to. So I shrunk down my world and I shrunk me down. And psychotherapy is a way of helping somebody to get in. Think of a child who likes to hide under a blanket because they believe they're staying safe and they've their little torchlight in there. Psychotherapy, metaphorically, is a way of coming in under that blanket with you and supporting you to rise up with your light, take your blanket off, and start to see into this world in ways that you know you can trust in the environment and you can feel safe in the environment, which means you feel safe in your own visceral experience, as within, as without. So for me, that is the beautiful description and the big broad description of the work, the realm of a psychotherapist.
That's beautifully said, by the way. So now everybody understands that therapy is not scary and Karen is amazing. So yeah,
Thank
yeah, what's really interesting too is first off, there's so many things that you said that I want to go back to. But you talk about not being able to trust yourself, and how ultimately, especially those that have seen any forms of abuse or mislove, right, growing up, that we end up being that same person to ourselves. The very person that we tried to get away from, that we didn't want to be a part of, we end up doing that to ourselves and not even realizing it. And I realized that I did that to myself for a really long time, even after I left my abusive relationship. And I had a great childhood. But just to give you guys an understanding, for those who are like, oh, I didn't necessarily go through child trauma, but things happened when I was, in my 18, 20, those things still affect you, right?
Yeah.
And for me, that was 18 to 28. That was my entire building block of believing and understanding, which got completely corrupted and taken over by someone that I thought loved me. And so I believed them. And it took me a really long time to realize that a lot of the beliefs and the thoughts that I had of myself was actually the things that he used to say to me, or he used to tell me, or the way that I would feel when I was around him. And so it's really interesting to see how capable we are of deciding what lens we want to see the world through. We always talk about, I don't have control of this, or I can't control this, or I can't help it that I'm doing this. You have a lot more control than what you understand, but that control starts with inside. It starts with the trust. It starts with the understanding. It starts with loving yourself at a degree as well as you are putting things out into the world, which I find so fascinating because in my realm of not having any type of control getting out of that situation, that was always my biggest issue. I couldn't control when I got upset. I couldn't control when certain things brought me back to memories that I had been through. And that pissed me off more than anything because I felt like I didn't have control of my world, of my realm. And it wasn't that. It was my body trying to show it to me, to express it, to allow those emotions and those feelings that I never got to feel to finally come up in a safe space, when I was in my car, when I was going to bed, when my children were already asleep, in these spaces that I didn't have to worry about anyone judging. However, I chose to judge myself in those moments, right? And I think that so often every single one of us do this at some point in time, and we judge ourselves so harshly, yet we are
Mhm.
willing to give everyone else around us the 10,000th chance that they don't deserve, yet we don't give that back to ourselves.
Mhm. Yeah. Like, I want to grab that because that's so critical, what you've just spoken to, for people to understand themselves more in this. So what is fascinating is that, we are very powerful. We are very powerful. So let me come at this from the spiritual lens, okay? So if we look at this, and when I say the word God, just for people, in case people have, an indoctrinated kind of retaliation to the word God. God, for me, to quote the amazing AC/DC Barry Taylor, he says, God is a blanket we throw over the mystery to give it a shape. So when I say God, I am trying to illuminate this sacred intelligence that truly works in our world in ways in which our humanists cannot. Okay. So for anyone out there, and I've come because I was born a Catholic in Ireland, I grew up repelling the way God was taught to us. But I always had this incredible awareness of there is something greater than all of us. There's something that if I told my hair to stop growing, it's not going to stop growing. There is something on charge. There's an incredible vibration that has created everything by this incredible design. In other words, there is an artist and we are part of its artistic expression. And we are extraordinary, but we don't look at ourselves through the lens of awe of self, which is what I did in my master's research in spirituality. I looked at self love as a spiritual practice that activates and opens the sacred heart energy for us to have more connection to the divine. And my research went very deep, and awe of self, because awe and wonder is a great way to be in awe when we're in awe, we don't contract, we go into expansion, but we never have awe of self. And you've just named it in a very with different language, but I want to grab it because number one, people, it's fascinating, and I mean this from my own personal awareness as well. It's absolutely fascinating how much authority and power I have given away to other people, and how I have allowed Karen to be at the mercy of what others have said about me, as if they feckin' know me from the inside out. I gave that over. So, as a child coming in here, I was born into sexual abuse and physical violence from when I was born, and I spoke up at 14. You met a level of abuse when you were a lot older. So, and I mean this with love, it's not about the age we were at, it's about the moment of our beautiful light, which is pure love, pure innocence, pure sacredness, and very holy in its grace energy. It's when that those qualities of what we are naturally is met by something that is the complete opposite. And we don't know what to do with that. We don't know what to do with that. We come up against it for the first time. You came up against it when you were a little bit older. But because you met it for the first time, what you did and what I did when I was younger is I took it inside of myself and I went, there's something wrong with me, that they're like that
Mm,
towards me. And we all do this. We all go, there's something wrong with me because they've done that to me. Instead of saying, what the fuck is actually up with them that they would want to do that to me,
yeah.
which shifts the power exchange. Okay, it shifts it from us taking it into our beautiful selfhoods and attacking ourselves negatively because we think there's something wrong with us. So now we're being critical, we're in the lens of self-criticism, and that robs us of our confidence, our self-acceptance, our self-love. It robs us, it totally diminishes our light. So in terms of spiritual lens, it's almost like the darkness meets our light. Instead of us being able to stay in contact with our light and look at this through the lens of the divine, we go, oh, what's wrong with us that they would do this to us? And now all of a sudden the focus is on ourselves, like we're little scientists in a lab and we have ourselves up a little, tiny little microscope, and all we see is the negative about ourselves, and that becomes illuminated, the negativity of us. Somebody did something negative to us, we take that negative vibration, drop it into our beautiful light, and all of a sudden, all we see in the microscope of ourselves is just negative energy. We see ourselves through that negative lens. So I now know, and and I won't go into it today because it's too long of a story, and it's quite big of a story, but I can take this part out of it. The beauty of how powerful we are is this. I recognised, and I will be speaking in Oxford at the trauma conference in September as one of their keynote speakers on trauma, because I had an encounter when I was 19 and I didn't have the sophistication of the language. But at 19, I sat with my sexual abuser and I asked them the why. Why me? Because I had hated myself so much. I was so violent and I wanted out of this life. I believed if I was gone, everybody else would just get on with their life. So that led to my suicidal attempt. So I sat with them at 19. I'd just given birth to my son. I was a single mother. I was only 19, young, and you were young as well, Kat. So you'll get that, what that's like to be so young.
Hmm.
And then I was left 3 weeks before I gave birth to my son. I was left. His father ended it with me. So I was very responsible, and I recognized I can't navigate this world with an innocent baby, with all this trauma in my family and this hate and violence of wanting to take revenge to the person who did this. So instead, I sat with them and I asked them, why me? In doing that, which is taking a person and making them take accountability for their action. Now, look, I want to be kind to this. I was lucky that my abuser would have that conversation with me. A lot of people don't get this. The guards
Absolutely.
were, the police were involved, social workers were involved when I was 14. So it was done correctly in terms of my speaking about it, and everyone got involved. But I ended up back in Ireland, 19, and having my son. I had lived in France for 2 years. And when I sat with that person, my abuser, and I heard, I heard all the trauma that happened to them. There was this awareness in the room of this broken human has been broken by the unhealed parts of their abuser. And this is now is the same pattern that happened to me. And the pain in me that I've carried, I now can understand it through. It's the very same pain in this person. Like what they described, I was like, oh my God, that's the pain in me. Now, because of that, what happened was straight away, it made me not want to seek vengeance and revenge in that moment. It brought in a bit of compassion. And I'm not saying this to say, oh, they gotten away with what they did. I'm saying it brought in compassion into understanding hurt people will hurt people, unhealed people will carry on the woundedness, the trauma, and they will put it onto other people. And I'm that child who had to take on that trauma. Okay, so I was aware of this. And because I became so aware of that in the moment, it was like the chaos of my mind. It was like I was able to drop down out of the chaos of a mind, and my mind was so mentally toxic. It was violent. It only thought of Karen in a negative way and life and people and my abuser with hate. So it was very toxic up here. For in this moment of hearing their story and how they were raped and abused and their innocence as well, I dropped into a part in me in my heart that was very pure. And in that pure place, I was able to hear, forgive them for they know not what they done. Now, I know that's not my way of thinking. So I was taken over in that moment in a beautiful way by grace. Grace entered my heart. And in that moment, I recognized for my healing to happen, I would need to reach across this table and offer them the hand of forgiveness. And I did that. I literally, with tears and sobbing, and a real cat just to grab the level of it. Like I really understood through my own pain that their own broken child was me. It was like I could see what I am and who I was also who they were. And nobody gave them space for healing, and nobody came into their world and tried to protect them because they never disclosed their own sexual trauma. So I was like, I didn't feel responsible, but I was aware that I could gift us both something in this moment. I could gift us the opposite of what we've only ever known. And in that moment, I chose forgiveness. And I said to the soul of my abuser, I forgive you. And the words, for you know not what you've done, dropped out of me. So in my research, what I realized, because I was fascinated by that, because, and look, my community alienated me because I forgave them. What do you mean you forgive them? Why can't you punish them? Why can't you lock them up? And I was like, that's not going to heal me. So
Hmm.
everybody wanted to control my healing and my way of growth. But when I did my research, what I noticed is that God is so incredibly beautiful and knows how powerful we are, that God is hidden in the word trauma. So if you think of the word trauma, there's three sacred syllables in the center. In the AUM, it's the mantra. When you chant you are aligning yourself with unity consciousness. And I know in the trauma, I know that that was the meeting point in my body. The transcendence, the divine entered my energy field into me. So here we have the experience, we have the evidence, and we have the inevitable. We have spirit, we have the divine. And in that moment, I offered something that totally transformed my pathway and allowed me to reclaim myself and pick myself up at only 19, go into therapy, go into college as a mature student and do 16 consecutive years, because I dropped out of school when I was 14. I did 16 consecutive years training in what I trained in, always trying to understand what actually took place in me in that moment that allowed me to really forgive. And it's not an intellectual forgiveness. And it's not a disassociation. It was an incarnation, or to play on words, my name is Karen. It was an incarnation where I rose up into the fullness of my capacity. So to come back to what you said, we have both capacity. So trauma for me now, when I look at it, yes, we hold the energy of the wound, but we also hold the energy of the transcendence. In other words, we can, within ourselves, transcend the very encounter and the very experience. We have it all because God created us to know and have the medicine, the gold energy within our own selves. That's how fucking powerful we are as human beings. But when the snake bite happens to us, mostly we all focus on the wound and we become hostages to the woundedness. So the wounded child still wounds the adult in the present tense. Whereas I'm saying you have also capacity to become the host for something more expansive, more sacred, more holy, that can absolutely unshackle you from being the hostage to your own woundedness. And I would rather do my work on showing people that they have that capacity within themselves, that they don't have to be a victim in the energy of their own woundedness, that they have been gifted through the very creator that created them through the like it's in the word trauma. Like think of that. Like think of the sacred divine God as a magnificent creator. He didn't just it didn't just create us to be disempowered. It's showing us that within our own self agency, we have the capacity to rise up like phoenixes. Despite the experience, we can, if we tap into it, we can recognize we are greater and bigger than the experience. And I could feel that in that moment when I said, I'm going to forgive. I actually could feel a part of me that was still whole and unbroken by my very trauma. I could feel that. I felt so whole in that moment, so in touch with this incredible capacity to feel my bigness in that moment. And I just offered. And I mean, I cried. I When I reached across that table, I was reaching across the ties that bind an intergenerational trauma. 1 second, I have to open that door. I'm so sorry now for this. Are you okay if I do that? I have to literally open that door. 1 second.
You're totally fine. In the middle of the magnificent story, but no
Oh,
worries at
sorry
all.
for that. We're in the Canary Islands and I just have people fixing a light that went off. But of course, the timing is now. I love
Of
that.
course, that's okay. I think that it gives people a space to take in all of that information
I
that you just
know. It's
gave as
so
well.
big. It's
Yes.
so big. And I want to say that because you're correct. It's not about like, I don't want to penetrate people's where people are at. I just want to gently make people look at something in a very different way because I'm not this great, like somebody. I'm not this great somebody. I am just an ordinary. And this is what I want to say. We are all ordinarily extraordinary. We're so used to believing that extraordinary needs to look like a certain thing, that it has to
Hmm.
show up as some certain incredible thing, but it's not. Just by being yourself is an extraordinary way to be. Because if we go back to what we said earlier, it is so hard for us to allow ourselves permission to be who we are. And it's so brave to tell the truth for ourselves about how we are. And that in that great, extraordinary things happen. Our life shifts, like it all shifts. And I know that from going through this. And that's the only invitation I want to offer people. It's okay with where you're at. I just want to offer maybe take a moment, take time out, maybe to re-listen, to contemplate on this, which is such a big thing to come in at and to come with you at. But that's the nature of my spirit. I'm such a big, deep, deep energy. I go deep into the unconscious. So and I'm Scorpio and Libra. I'm on the cusp. So I do that deep inner work. So to your audience, you're both welcome. And I apologize for taking you into the depths. So like, boom, but I'm doing
No.
it from a place of pure love. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's beautiful. And thank you so much for being so open about it. I think that this is some of the things that people crave in this world is to actually hear those stories, the things that everyday people have been through to understand that it doesn't matter where you're at in the universe, these things happen, these experiences happen that we don't necessarily have control over in those moments. However, we can choose down that road to be able to let go of what was controlling us so that we can actually continue to live our lives, right? We get to make that decision. Otherwise, we're allowing somebody else and what was put onto us to be what leads our lives. And that's us letting go of absolutely every bit of control. And that was something I had to learn after years of coming out of my situation. And again, as Karen said earlier, it doesn't mean that what was done to you is okay. It just means that you are allowing to forgive it in that moment or in that space so that you can continue to move on. I know that what my ex did is not good, and that's why I speak about it all over the place. And I now have an understanding as to why things went down the way that they did. And I think that for me, that gave me a space of understanding that it wasn't me, which is what we talked about earlier, where we always say, what is wrong with me and why did that person do it? I had the opportunity and the ability to shift that back and say, okay, now I understand why that person decided to do those things to me. And it wasn't because that I deserved it, it was because of something within them. And it gives us that opportunity to be able to shift. And that, in my personal opinion, is like that's the ultimate release because then you get to be free of that burden from someone else, which is not yours to carry, to continue to move on. So thank you so much for being so open about that and honest. We are totally going to have you back to be able to talk about all the other pieces because I want to dive into the tantra. I want to dive into body work. I really want to dive into the shamanic medicine that you just finished and everything because again, all these realms come together and they're all threaded over each other. And it's beautiful to see when we can see every bit of it instead
Yeah.
of boxing everything separately. And it's one thing I always talk to the audience about as well, is everyone has their own journey. You have to figure out what works best for you, but try all the things, right? Therapy wasn't
Yeah.
one thing that worked for me. I had to do my own self diving. I had to do my own learning. I had to figure those things out to make those connections. For other people, therapy has been great. For other people, somatic healing has been great. For other people, it's breath work. Go out there and try the things out because you'll never know what's going to resonate with you and give you that space to be able to breathe if you don't
Yeah.
go out and try it, right?
Yeah. And definitely also your healer, your therapist can only take you as far as they've gone themselves. And I will
Absolutely.
say that. And I recognized that while I was a client in the chair, I started to notice actually, I'm kind of telling my therapist how to work on this with me, and I always said to myself, okay, like if you're outgrowing the space, then that just simply means it's an invitation for you to work with somebody who's gone deeper into it, really
Hmm.
deeper into it. And that's why I love the work that I've done, that I offer and do because of the depth. There isn't anything I've not met, and I mean that with great love inside of myself. And I'm never finished the work. I constantly am doing self-inquiry, constantly recognizing what am I responding to in the now? What is that offering me back and mirroring back to me? There's always the deep dive. I never switch off, and I'm happy to never switch off because I want to know, Karen, I'm a great wonderment. I am a great mystery unto myself. And I can never know myself. So I want to also remove people feeling, oh, I want to get fixed and I want to be healed and cured. We're constantly always expanding. Like the universe, we're moving through space. Everything is always expanding. We also are constantly evolving and expanding. You will never fully know yourself because you're not meant to. The mystery designed you to be a mystery into your own self-discovery. So I would say fall in love with the wonderment of what you are, go and be a great explorer. But if you want more peace and harmony in your life, it starts with the way out is the way in. You have to go in and get to know who you are
Mm,
fundamentally.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Oh, Karen, thank you so much for today. I can't thank you enough. Oh, I love speaking to you. We are definitely going to have Karen back. So you guys keep an eye out for part two because it's going to be on the books. We're going to dive in deeper. We're going to go into more of these things and we're really going to bring you guys some tips and things to follow up with this as well. So, Karen,
Beautiful.
as we kind of come to a close, please tell everybody how can they find you? How can they get to know you? How can they be in your world?
Beautiful. My most active platform that I seem to lean to mostly is on Instagram, and I'm there as so the dot full stop solution full stop therapist. So you'll find me on Instagram. You can add it on as well in text. That's where you'll find me, guys. That's mostly where I'm active. I'm up on TikTok, but I'm more active on Instagram. But come, say hi, connect, reach out. Yeah, happy to be in service. Yay.
Thank you. Yay, thank you so much. And of course, we'll have all that information in the show notes. We'll make it super easy for you guys to find
Thank
Karen,
you.
to follow her, to learn more for her, to be in her world. Karen, is there any last words you would like to leave the audience with?
No, just here. And I hope the takeaway from this is for you to reconsider that the story you're telling yourself and make it be one of who I am is bigger and more expansive than the experience I'm encountering. Know that. And it's not about you. It is about the person and the situation and the energy coming at you, but it's not personal to who you are. So don't take it in and dissect yourself negatively. Just take it, hold it, reframe it, flatten it, and tell yourself who I am is enough. That's
Mm.
what I'll offer.
Oh, beautiful ending words. And again, what an amazing way to start the new year, as so many of us are looking for ways to do things differently, ways to come to a new year to start things. You've got to go within, right? Like Karen said. So thank you, Karen, so much for being a part of the podcast. Oh, I can't thank you enough. To everybody else out there, I know that you got some amazing information. I hope that it resonated with you at a very deep level, and that something touched you to let you know that you are absolutely 100% worthy, and you have the opportunity to make your life whatever you choose to make it, regardless of the things that have been handed to you or that you have been through. So let this be your light. Let this be your little light bulb moment, or that little bit of a poke that you needed to let you know that there is something out there, and it is the time to go ahead and move forward to that. Start learning, start seeking, because you have the ability to make life what you want it. Until next time, do one thing positive for someone each and every day and see the difference that it makes in your life. Catch you later.
Beautiful. Bye, guys.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Real Chat with Kat today, where real stories meet real solutions. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review on Apple, and share this with someone who may also need to hear this as well. Let's also keep the conversation going. Follow me on socials at The Lotus Effect, connect with our incredible guests, and remember, you are never alone. Your story matters, and you have the ability and the power to rewrite it. You always have a choice. Until next time, stay strong, stay inspired, and keep showing up as the incredible, unstoppable